Greetings, fellow makers! This is the Real Melky. Welcome back to my factory. Today is Wing Day. Yes. I made this for my Epyon Gundam cosplay. It's so big it might not actually fit in frame. But it is a giant wing. About 5 feet long, and that's actually used for. And about 20 inches wide, which means it likely will not fit in a suitcase unless you take it apart, which is what I've engineered it to be able to do. It comes apart in 3 sections, so it will fit in the suitcase. Today, I'm going to show you how I made it. Let's go! Okay, so for this build, we're going to need some stuff, just like every other build. But it's not like every other build. These wings I'm making need to stay rigid and not just flop around. So to accomplish that, you'll be using foam core. This stuff is surprisingly rigid, incredibly strong. So we'll be using that for the skeleton to provide structure to the foam. Speaking of foam, you'll be using 10mm foam. 8mm foam, 10mm foam, 6mm foam, and 2mm foam. I got all these at Michael's. There will be a link in the description. But also need some pattern pieces. Like these. So that way we know what to draw onto the foam. As well as some weights to make sure the pattern pieces don't move all over the place. A marker to trace out the pattern pieces. An Exacto knife, specifically for the 2 and maybe the 6mm foam. We'll talk about that. Discuss that later. You also need a CosTools hole cutter. Don't try to cut circles in foam by hand. It does not work. You also need a heat gun and a rotary tool, some contact cement, as well as a respirator, a dust mask, and a face shield. And well, this next tool isn't exactly necessary. It is extremely helpful. I myself will be using my bandsaw, which is not in view at the moment, but it will be soon. Also, you will need to use magnets if you are planning on making these travel friendly, which I am. However, if you're not, if you're just going to put these in your car and drive to your local convention, you don't need magnets. These are Neodymium magnets. They are incredibly strong, and they come in a wide variety of shapes and sizes and Gauss ratings. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but okay. I'll be using these 3/4 inch ones, some 1/2 inch ones. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but there are 2 very small magnets in here. And I'll also be using these. These are about, looks to be about 2 inches, maybe a little bit longer. Alright, I think that covers everything. Start by tracing our pattern onto the foam core first. Since this piece is going to be sandwiched between 2 foam pieces, we don't really need to worry about adding the registration marks and the letters and numbers and edges and whatnot. But you might notice that certain edges, like this one and this one, have an AM. That means these 2 edges, like this one and this one, the edge, the BM edge of piece 2 and the BM edge of piece 4 will connect with magnets. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. All we're doing right now is tracing pieces. Like this. So, I'm going to trace out the rest of these and come back when that's done. Our pieces are traced onto the foam core, and now I'm going to separate them so they're just easier to deal with. Just using a box cutter here, nothing fancy. And just cutting the pieces apart. And it does not have to be a perfect cut, because I'm going to glue some foam onto both sides of these, and then I'll cut them out with a bandsaw. That way I'll get much cleaner cut marks. So I'm going to separate these just like I did with those, and we'll be back when it's time to trace pattern pieces onto foam. Going to start by tracing out the 6mm piece, because the 6mm foam is already open, which means I don't have to cut through plastic to show you this. Now this one, I am labeling the edges and adding the registration marks and all that stuff, because this is the foam. This is what's going to be seen over the foam core. Also making sure to flip the pattern piece because there's going to be a front and a back to these wings. Making sure to copy all the relevant information, like where the registration mark to go, which edge this piece is, and the number. And we're going to do that with all the rest of my foam pieces. Oh, the templates that I transfer. All of them onto foam. But it's the same process as this. So we're going to skip it to when that's all done. Now that our pieces are cut out, it is time to glue them, this foam and the foam core sandwich together. For that, you'll be using large contact cement, as well as wearing a respirator. Also, I've got windows open, garage door partly open, to provide ventilation, because you really don't want to breathe this stuff. And the way contact cement works is you apply it to both sides you want to connect both pieces. In this case, this piece and the back of this piece. Wait for it to dry, and then you firmly press the pieces together. And then they are bonded for life. And I am aware that I'm going past my line only. That's because I'm going to put this over it. And I want to make sure that we get good connection wherever it might end up laying. I hear a puppy. Side note, when you're using contact cement, pets should not be in the room. Definitely should not stay in the room. Because if it's bad for you to breathe, it's bad for them to breathe too. So kick them out. It's been about 10 minutes, I think. Wasn't really keeping track. But our contact cement on piece 4 has dried, and we're ready to attach the pieces together. So here we go. Lining up the edges as best I can. Making sure there's glue wherever it touches down. And there we go. Alright. And as we can see, there's foam core here, and here, and here, and here, and here. Which means that in about an hour, when I cut this out, it will have a nice, strong structure for the entire piece. Alright, so now I'm going to prepare the other pieces to be glued together. So we'll come back when that's done. So it's been about an hour and the contact cement has set up enough where I can cut these things out. For that, I'll be using my bandsaw. This can be a dangerous piece of equipment if you're not using it correctly. Basically what this is a really long blade that goes round and round and round really fast and cuts things like a saw. Now, because the blade moves really fast, the foam dust and the foam core dust is going to fly all over the place. Hence the gas mask and the face shield. But enough explaining. Let's just do this thing. We'll have it for half an hour. Oh, here we go. And just like that, you have a nice, smooth, clean cut edge of the whole thing. And we're just going to cut up the rest of the pieces using that same technique. Now that all these pieces are cut out, this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, it is time to add the magnets so I can disassemble and reassemble this thing. Because, like I said in the beginning of this video, it's got to go in a suitcase. So, to do that, I'll be cutting some holes into these pieces of foam. Don't try to cut holes, don't try to cut circles by hand. It does not work. But these things work really well. And now we have a perfect circle hole thing to put this magnet into. Now, Now, we'll need some sandpaper. This is 220 grit, but you could go down to like 120, possibly even 80 grit if you want to. This is just what I have on hand. And to make sure that these pieces are the only ones that magnet together, I'll be playing with the polarity a little bit. Now, as you know, the negative side and the negative side of a magnet will repel each other, just like you learned in science class. I'm actually trying to push these together pretty hard, and they're just not doing it. But the positive side and the negative side will go together. And it's pretty hard to pull them apart this way, but if you slide them off this way, it works just fine. Now, I have to decide which side I want to go here. That's the negative one for that one, so this will be the positive facing side, which means I'm going to scuff up the negative side of the magnet with some sandpaper. That'll give the contact cement something to grip onto, which I will show you right now. I love this part. But because we're using contact cement, it's respirator time. Some people use super glue for this. I'm not a big fan of super glue or hot glue or anything like that. So I like to use contact cement. This can be a bit of a challenge because the brush is metal. The magnet will want to grab it. Just the foam piece. And the piece we're sticking it onto. Looks like my brush has stuck together. Which is fine. And now we wait for the contact cement to dry. And then we're going to toss the pieces. So, I'll be right back when that's done. So, I have added the magnets to the wing pieces, which allows me to do this. There's still a little bit of work to be done. There's a gap to fill in here, here, and here. But I will have to wait until tomorrow, because this is the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, share if you want. If you have any questions or suggestions, go ahead and drop those in the comments section. I'll be happy to get back to you. Again, thank you very much for watching. Have a great day or night, whatever time it is. And I will see you in the next video.